Welcome to Jackson Reviews, the channel where I go through the best and worst horror movies so you don't have to. I'm Sam Jackson. Today we're going to be reviewing Friday the 13th Part 2, released in 1981. Now, Friday the 13th Part 2 was a quickly made film, released less than a year after the original. The main reason for this is just that Paramount could A, get extra money, and B, because they could. Luckily, it does have a few people coming back who made the original, including the film's secondary producer who came back to direct this one and ended up directing the next one as well, which, you know, at least stuck with a lot of the people who made the first one. A lot of the crew are also similar, as well as a couple of cast coming back, including the actress who played Alice in the original and the actor who played Crazy Ralph. Now, the film was heavily criticised upon initial release for the fact it was so close to the original, kind of seeming almost like a little bit of a loose remake more than an actual sequel. Although fan reaction was a lot more positive, it was still debated whether or not this is a proper sequel that fans wanted. Even so, it did do extremely well at both the box office and with fans as a whole, since, 10 more movies after this. But anyway, let's just head straight into the review. The film begins with a nice little catch-up session with Alice set about 2 months after the original. She may be chilling and nice and happy at home, but those memories are still going to haunt her in her dreams. So it's very nice when Jason pops around to say hi as an old friend, remind her that, killing mothers isn't exactly the best thing to do to a very damaged mind. One of the things I love so much about this sequence is that, Jason kills her out of revenge for her killing his mother, but Pamela only killed people because people killed Jason, and it's just like a cycle of random murders, and that's kind of what makes the Friday franchise just so much fun. It's just so self-aware and so cheesy sometimes, it's really enjoyable. The rest of the movie is set around about 5 years after the events of the first one, with brand new counsellors including Paul Hall and Ginny Field. Now, Ginny Field is the new Alice. Since the original actress was meant to return, I'll go into that a bit later on, they kind of had to completely redo the characters, and Ginny's honestly one of the best Survivor girls. I mean, she's blonde, she's tough, she has sex with people, she drinks a lot, and yet she's the film's final girl. It's just even though this came out in 1981, it's so progressive, and that's why Ginny is badass as shit. We also get to meet victims 1 through 6, as you honestly won't need to learn their names apart from Mark, but that's mostly because he's wheelchair bound and it's got a pretty awesome death sequence, and as you can guess, no one really lives through this movie. Except for Ted. Fuck you, Ted. During the first night, Paul decides to tell people the story of Jason Voorhees, since it's such a legendary story already at this point, and after a little bit of fake out, it's decided that everyone should go to bed. But, victims 4 and 5 decide the next day just to have a little bit of a wander around, and they find a dead dog. Let's keep this part in mind. Dead dog. The dead part is very important for the rest of this movie and the ending. I'll go into that a bit later on. After being found by a cop and taken back, the police officer decides to investigate the woods himself, and does not end in the best way. And since Jason's not too impressed, he decides to nail the copper. Back at the camp, Paul decides to take quite a few of the camp counsellors out for a little bit of a sesh, to be honest. But because of Sandra and the other guy, victim 5, being very dicky and getting them in trouble with the police, those 2 have to stay behind. 4 others also decide to stay behind, including Wheelchair Mark, keep an eye on him, and several others. Obviously they're all picked off one by one, and obviously I ain't really mentioned the other ones because they're not that important, the deaths are pretty shit. I do have to massively mention Mark. I mean, look at this death. It's just so badass. After a while of getting drunk, Ginny and Paul decide to head back to camp for completely unknown reasons, and just so we can get this part of the plot out of the way. After having a look around and seeing a couple of things that don't seem that right, Jason suddenly appears out of nowhere and knocks Paul the fuck out. Ginny has a little bit of a Survivor girl run before heading back to Jason's cabin and finding the decapitated head of Mrs. Voorhees and several other victims. After a really cool sequence where we see how awesome Ginny is, just the fact she plays mind tricks with Jason because she's practicing child psychology, which is cool as hell.
Jason, Mother is talking to you!
She's able to kind of knock Jason down. I mean, she talks down the most famous serial killer in horror movie history. How much more cooler could you get? But sadly, after a certain amount of time, she does step out of the way, and then Jason spots his mother's head and decides, nah bitch, you ain't my mama. Just before Jason's able to kill Ginny, a Paul Ex Machina appears out of nowhere and knocks Jason to the ground. After a brief scuffle where Paul nearly dies, Ginny manages to get a massive blow on Jason by hitting him in the shoulder with a machete, knocking him down. The two then escape in a nice little kind of romantic way, and eventually head back to camp. Now here's the part where people debate what actually happened here. I personally think it's a dream sequence because, like, the dead dog's in it. But some people say, like, it happened and the dog wasn't killed. But I was like, no, shut up. The dog died. You could see it. It wasn't just another dog. It's not a fake out. And all this part isn't canon for the next movie, so it's a fucking dream sequence. When they get back to camp, they find the dead dog. Dead dog. And then after a brief few moments, Jason dives through the window and decides to give Ginny a nice little bear hug. Oh, that's sweet, Jason. The reunion is sadly cut short when Ginny suddenly wakes up. Paul is nowhere in sight and she's getting wheeled away from an ambulance, and honestly that's where the film ends. Huge cliffhanger. The final shot of the movie is showing Jason's cabin, where Pamela's head is still there but Jason is nowhere to be seen, indicating that he escaped or something else happened. Honestly, this ending is like, even though it's a cheap slasher movie, it's kind of eerie just knowing that, like, even though obviously there's tons more films that everyone knows he'd live anyway, it's kind of creepy just knowing that such a psychotic force is still out there, and I think it's always been an amazing way for, like, the movie to end, and I'm really happy it did this way. Now, when it comes to the film's production values, it's really cheap, and you can tell that, but the cheapness is kind of a reason why I like it. Like, way too many horror movies nowadays just throw so much budget and so much CGI and so much special effects. Like, all this was done by hand, there was no CGI used throughout the entire movie, it's all practical, it's all cool. And when it comes to just a filmmaking stuff, I love it. The director is pretty shit, if I'm being honest, but hell, he's able to do, like, the cool wheelchair kill, and that's, like, 10 out of 10 awesome in my opinion. So, kudos to him. When it comes to the characters as well, most of them are extremely forgettable compared to the first film. I mean, a lot of them in the first film were pretty shit and forgettable, but these lot kind of take it to the next level. Apart from Mark and Ted and, like, the main two characters, no one's really that memorable. Like, there's Sandra, who the actress was underage at the time, just a heads up, which is why that sex scene is cut short. But apart from that, it's not really fun or important. It's much more just, let's see who can get killed in the most dramatic way. Even so, I will happily say that Friday the 13th Part 2 is just cool. Like, honestly, just the character development of Ginny, she kind of stands out for this movie so much, and even Paul, like, as, like, a secondary protagonist, he's a really, like, great character, and you can see that he's strong-willed and he cares a lot about Ginny, and I think it's nice. And the twist with, well, just Jason being the killer is, like, so iconic. Now, for the 5 fun facts, first of all, let's just mention the fact that the actress who played Alice Hardy did not come back for this film properly. Originally, the original script was to slate her as the main character, but after issues which are still debated to this day, whether it was the actress's pay or just the fact she wasn't interested because of a stalkery fan, she only appeared for the first few minutes, which to be fair is better than what could have happened where she didn't appear at all and we had no continuity. Second of all, Crazy Ralph was never originally meant to be killed off, but the actor wasn't that interested in doing the role anymore, and once, similar to the way Alice did, he only came back for this movie just because he didn't want his character to live on and possibly get forced back into another movie, so it was just so much easier. Third fun fact is that even though Betsy Palmer hated the first movie and openly slagged it off till the day she passed away, she did come back for this one for a reason which is kind of unknown. I personally just kind of think she wanted some fuel for the car she got from the first movie. Fourth of all, even though this is the first appearance of Jason as the killer, the fact is he wasn't originally meant to be the killer, which is something I find so interesting. If Sean Cunningham had his way, it was going to be someone else, like a copycat or something, and that's the reason why he split from the franchise for a long time, which is kind of a shame really, since he was kind of the brainchild of Friday the 13th. And he really hated this movie and just the whole Jason saga. Another fun fact is the fact that Tom Savini, the original makeup artist on the first one, didn't come back, and he stated that he didn't come back because he just found the whole premise stupid. I mean, Jason died, he designed the original Jason, and he was like, no, Jason's dead. Why would you bring him back? This makes no sense, and since there's no explanation in the movie, he randomly skipped past it. But he did come back to Part 4 literally just so he could kill off Jason, which, you know. But no, my overall feelings when it comes to Friday the 13th Part 2 is that it is a really enjoyable movie. And I'd definitely say it's at least a little bit better than the first one, but the problem with it is because it relies so much on the original. It isn't at all an original film. It is like a half remake, half sequel. Like, it's new characters, new councillors and etc., but the setting's basically exactly the same as Crystal Lake, just at Packanack Lodge. And the characters are a lot blander. And the real thing that stands out is Jason himself and Ginny. That's honestly, even like the kills in this movie, because Tom Savini wasn't involved, are just so much tamer. It's kind of stupid in a way that they lost such an amazing career. I mean, I get that he was doing other projects and he didn't agree with where this film was going, but I also think it was such a shame. But even saying that, the movie never tries to be this like grand Oscar-winning movie. It knows it's a cheap slasher, it knows it's cheesy, it knows it's kind of funny in a way, but I like the fact it steers into that and it doesn't really care if people don't enjoy it for that, because at the end of the day, it was a movie made for like $1.5 million and then got back like 22 to 27 mil at the box office. Like, it achieved what it needed to achieve and it introduced Jason. That's just a win. No matter what way you look at it, Jason is always a win. So thank you very much for watching my review of Friday the 13th Part 2. If you did enjoy this, please be sure to like, share and subscribe, and I will see you all in the next video. Goodbye.